it was the only place in the area to come to help people out. There was no other services going on. There was nothing compared to it. And it was virgin territory. And I think once people saw how we could be so helpful to things, they wanted to be a part of it. You know, when we're a successful thing, people like to be a part of it.
Plus, it was interdenominational.
Exactly.
That's one of the things that drew me to it. And I think that drew some volunteers, because we had volunteers from all areas. That was a good part of it. That's always been.
They work together beautifully, too.
Yeah. As it should be.
As it should be. Exactly.
I'm Joyce Berry-Biles, and I came to CCM in 1993. And I came in basically to see Betty Jean and Margaret to drop something off. And I said, if there is ever an opening here, let me know, because this is the only place I would leave my current job and want to come to. And they said, there is an opening. We've just created it, and I applied and doubled my hours, halved my pay, and couldn't have made a better choice. I loved it and loved every minute that I was there.
I'm Margaret Cox, and I began with CCM in 1985, November of 85, when the ministry opened a satellite office of such in Kannapolis.
I'm Bob Sessum, the former rector at All Saints Episcopal Church. I began with CCM before it began, in the early 1981, when clergy and lay folks were coming together to see how we might consolidate a ministry to those who are less fortunate in our community, instead of individual churches doing it all.
I'm Betty Jean Prewitt, and I came to CCM in 1981, which was the year it began. I came as a volunteer and remained a volunteer until 1985 when I went on to the staff. And I'm with Joyce. I loved every minute I was there.
To me, to hear 40 years the other day, to hear 40 years is unbelievable. But 10 or 12 of us starting, we had big ideas, we had big dreams. I don't think we ever had big dreams of what the ministry's doing now. It's unbelievable. It's miraculous. It's God working in so many strange and different ways through so many different people that's allowed this to happen.
What I remember most were the volunteers, the people who came forward, and that continued to be true throughout the rest of my almost 20 years in 2 different episodes with CCM, because they came with a lot of enthusiasm, they came with a lot of dedication, the support that came from the community. Once needs were known, then the needs generally got met.
We began down here on Union Street, and with a very, very small office, just a handful of folks, and a small pantry, small closet, and not much more than that.
I think one of the biggest experiences we had as an agency, and one of the places that we shined as such as a helping agency, was after July 31st, 2003, when 4,600 workers basically lost their jobs from Pilatex. And within 3 days, Kimball Lutheran Church opened their fellowship hall, had phones installed, desks, everything. We had an emergency crisis center there for CCM, Salvation Army, DSS, Red Cross,
hospital,
the hospital. Everyone came together, and we were there, 9 months?
And First Pres in Kannapolis gave us the food pantry.
Yes,
they gave us their
well.
lower level for the food pantry.
So for 9 months, we met folks there from early morning till
late
in the day.
That's right.
And kind of helped them sort through.
We went to meetings at the mill, in the mill buildings, people getting information, and Joyce was sitting behind someone and heard him say, I'll never forget this, I think I'm going to be all right. I sold my house last night. I think I've got somebody who'll buy my car. So now you're homeless and you have no transportation. but you
could pay your bills.
But you can pay your bills. Yeah.
And I had one particular lady that I placed her on monthly food, who would call before she sent a driver to pick up her food. She couldn't come in all the time necessarily because she wasn't always feeling well enough to come in. And she would send a driver, and she would call me and she'd say, "Margaret, do you have any shortening in the pantry?" Or, "Margaret, do you have a yellow cake mix? Because I really want to make a cake." And you know what? I went and searched that pantry to see if I could find those things for her, because that was important to her, you know, and it was what, if she could have gone to a grocery store and bought it, that's what she would have bought.
We would look for certain people when we got to November or December, because we knew fuel, that those folks would not be able to do fuel when the weather turned cold. And we would want them to come back because we had done their budgets. And that was one of the advantages of folks coming to CCM rather than going church to church. Right. We could look at their whole budget, and they had to bring verifications in so we could see what they could and couldn't do. And we knew they couldn't do fuel. So we wanted them to come. Now, some folks came in just one time, and that's all they needed. They just needed help that one time, and that got them back on a level ground.
It's that one hump. They just did get over that.
Yeah, exactly.
The verification process that we used was pretty extensive and thorough. And we did that because we wanted to be good stewards of the dollars that were given through CCM. From the very first day I was ever there until the last day I was not there was there in 2012, I think it was. We always strove to be good stewards.
My hope for the future is that we will still be in touch with the crisis needs of the individual, seeing broad pictures, but still be there for that person that comes into the office that needs the electric bill paid, and the individual stories that we heard all the time. That was the basis for a lot of what we were at the beginning, and that we won't get too far from that. We'll add other things, but that will still be there.
I've been there 25 of the 40 years, or was there 25 of the 40 years, and you know, we changed a lot in those 25 years. We certainly did, and we were doing bigger and better things. But to see where it is now, and you know, the variety of services and the helping people stabilize their lives, I think is very important.
Seeing where our country is right now and what's going on, I hope it continues to grow, and I know it will continue to grow. Because first of all, we've talked about, look at your history and the background and the reputation that you have. And as I said, when something's successful, people want to be a part of success and be part of an organization that's successful. And so I think that will continue to draw volunteers. And where we are today in our country, I think it's even more so. People want to have something that they can come together and not be divided about. And you can't do any better than helping those less fortunate than we are.
May God continue to bless the ministry of CCM.
My prayer today and always is that God will continue to bless CCM.
My prayer and hopes that this ministry, CCM, continues as it has in the past, could even be more blessed in the future, and that all of us can be so proud and excited that we've been a part of it and continue to look to the future.
My prayer is that God will continue to bless CCM in the future, and I thank God that I was able to be a part of it.
I guess I just am hopeful to see that this organization, that again, the big part for me was that it's all different denominations, all different folks coming together, that is still working well, that there's that support, that it's there for the community. So I guess it's hopeful, and it's exciting to see that 40 years it has brought forth CCM still active.
I'm glad to see that that's happened. That's brought me a lot of joy, and that's what 40 years of labor can do.
Yeah.